This is Stefan Boding, and welcome to episode 16 of the Flow University YouTube channel. In this week's episode, we'll be talking about the principles of fitness, some key markers that you should be using in your everyday life and as you go forward throughout your life in order to make sure that when you are engaging with fitness or that you are beginning to implement new strategies, protocols, or mechanisms within your life, that you are keeping some of the pillars and foundational aspects of it in place so that you do not go too far left. This is very important as a lot of times within industries and within certain aspects of society, new implementations, new technology will be given to the consumer and people will engage with it, but not truly understand the negative effects or the detrimental impact that it might have on them. Use this week's episode to give you a lens and a third eye, so to speak, so that you can begin to pierce through some of the veils that have been cast. I hope you all enjoy this week's episode of the Flow University channel. I apologize for my right eye over the last couple of weeks. I've been dealing with a sty that turned into something that I wasn't quite expecting. My entire right side of my face was swollen, but over the last couple of days, it has subsided substantially. I used some protocols and some healthy tips that I found not only online, but some health professionals, and it has started to go away. So things are doing a lot better now. But I hope you all are ready for this week's episode. The principles of fitness. Let's get started. The 7 social sins are wealth without work, pleasure without conscience, knowledge without character, commerce without morality, science without humanity, worship without sacrifice, political without principle. Frederick Donaldson. As we go into key number 1, as we start episode 16 of the Flow University YouTube channel, talking about the principles of fitness for you to keep in mind as you engage with fitness or as you view some of the health and wellness protocols that are given to the everyday consumer. And as you see some of the innovations and changes within the fitness industry, it is do what works for you. Now, a lot of times what individuals will get from people in the fitness industry is that they will get people who view fitness from one lens, one perspective, and one viewpoint. And whenever an individual discovers a small aspect of truth, sometimes we tend to overvalue the singular aspect of truth that we have found. And in our excitement and in our upheaval in having gained this insight in this depth, we want to share this with others. And in the sharing, we get to also have others prescribe to the same viewpoint and worldview as us. But this might not necessarily be within the best interest of every single person. And so you want to do what works for you. So for example, let's say you go into the gym and you meet someone who's enthusiastic about barbell training. Well, maybe you don't have the time to do barbell training. Maybe you don't have time to do kettlebell training. And so for you, it's, okay, I can't engage with this mechanism, but I can do something else. And so that doesn't mean you shouldn't engage with the entirety of fitness. No, it means that you need to figure out which aspect of it can be geared towards your unique lifestyle, your unique situation, and your unique anatomy, as well as how you operate and function. So maybe doing barbell training causes a lot of stress on your back. Well, then don't do barbell training. Well, maybe you're starting back off. Let's say you're coming back from injury. Well, then maybe you need to do more bodyweight exercise. Well, let's say that you are going from sedentary to an active lifestyle. Well, maybe you need to start off with light walks and you need to start off with more home workouts before you engage and you go to the gym. And so this is keeping you from believing that you have to do something. You don't have to do anything. You can do what you want to do. This is keeping choice and that sovereignty within yourself. But you can take healthy suggestions from people. And so this is putting a lid on your head that is making you sit back and say, okay, now instead of me, like, you go to the gym and you see everyone doing machines and all right, I guess I have to do machines. Now, when you go into the gym, you're like, okay, maybe going into the machines isn't the best for me because when I use certain machines, it makes my back hurt. Maybe I am today just going to do dumbbells. Or maybe today I'm just going to do some cardio. And so maybe you don't have the time. Some individuals, they're entrepreneurs, they're high performing individuals, and they don't have time to do all the fitness and do all the programming and all the protocols. So maybe for you, you only have 15 to 20 minutes to really get that fitness in, and then you have other stuff to worry about. Maybe you don't have time to sit and cook long or very extraneously healthy meals. So you do meal prep. So this is you beginning to really customize your fitness and your health and your wellness for yourself. So fitness doesn't have to come in a prerequisite box. Yes, there are certain aspects of fitness that you do have to keep in mind, but after that, it's build your own character, so to speak. So you can really do or engage with it in any manner that you want to. And so don't allow the mind, don't allow your consciousness to be centered or streamlined, focused in the mechanism of fitness through only one narrow lens. You want to open your perspective and begin to view it from an infinite ways in an infinite amount of viewpoints. Guys, I think it's over 7 billion people on the planet. So each person has a unique perspective. Each person has a unique circumstance and situation. Yes, our anatomy might be similar. Our physiology might be similar. The way our internal worlds are functioning and operating might in some degree have the same preset functions in order for it to be programmed, but in the relation and the contextualization, it can all be unique. And so keeping this in mind, you can begin to do and engage with fitness. So always, when you're viewing things on social media, when you're getting advice from health professionals, always sit back and go, okay, I see what is being said, and I understand that this is important for me. I understand I should be doing this. I understand the protocols. I understand the impact this will have on my health and my wellness. And I understand that this could lead to not just a long life, but a high quality of life as well. Okay, I might not be able to do everything, but what can I do? Or in what manner can I do this that won't actually lead to a net positive effect? It will actually lead to the positive effect that was the original purpose of you even trying to engage with it. So a lot of people, they'll engage with things because certain people have said certain things, or because they see things and they believe that this is good for them, but they actually end up going in a backwards direction because this isn't geared or fitting towards your unique circumstance. So let's say you want to be a millionaire, and let's say you're talking to a millionaire. Well, you're listening to the millionaire give you advice, but the millionaire is giving you his perspective from being a millionaire. And so the millionaire has already reached the end of the journey. And so the millionaire is giving you advice from a perspective that you have no relation to. So even though you hear the words and you understand the words, it's hard for you to digest the words because you don't see the word. You haven't gone through the experiences or met the people or have the skill set in order to implement some of the advice that has been being given to you. So sometimes instead of going to a millionaire, you go to someone who makes $100,000. And then because you're closer to understanding their life and their worldview and the connectivity they have to other people and how to operate within it. And then you go to someone who makes $200,000. Then you go to someone who makes $400,000. And then you slowly work up so that when you get to the person who makes $1 million, you're like, okay, how do I make $1 million? Now, when they give you advice, you're like, okay, I can not only understand you, but I can actually implement what you're giving me. And so what working for you will do for you is that it will help you to begin to step forward at your pace. So a lot of individuals, when they get into fitness, what will happen is that they will start off sprinting, but you just went from a sedentary lifestyle. And so there's a bad viewpoint among people where they believe that if they don't feel like they worked out, that they didn't do anything at all. Guys, that's not the right way of viewing fitness. Fitness isn't just beat me up till, I'm dead on the ground. No, a lot of times this will actually put you 2 steps behind, because now you've done shocked your body in such a way that your body now has to go into a fight or flight response. And so some people in their subconscious, they will go into a flight response because now they have essentially put their body in a foreign environment, and they have essentially encountered a mechanism that might almost try to kill them. And so you don't want to place your body in a flight response. You want to slowly ramp up. And so if you slowly ramp up, then you're more likely to stick with it, and you're more likely to see continued development. So a lot of times, this is the problem with fads, going back to earlier episodes and some of the stuff you see on social media, is because people will see a tremendous progress fast, but they won't see long-term results. And what you want is, you want long-term results. This is why having principles will keep you safe from doing this. This will keep you safe from going from diet to diet to diet, and then going back and beginning to binge eat. This will help you in creating a unique game plan for yourself. This will help you to structure plans and protocols that actually are going to lead to you having the sustaining results that you want. So a lot of times what you'll see on social media, and you'll see in the fitness industry, is you'll see mechanisms, and you'll see certain ways of doing fitness and certain ways of eating and certain ways of recovery that will lead to you getting to the place that you want to be extremely fast. You'll see 30-day challenge, 60-day challenge, 90-day challenge, but then there's nothing really after that. And so sometimes having a challenge is good, because having that drive and that motivation is nice for you, but motivation comes and goes. So what you want is, you want a nice drive. You want something that is going to keep you want to keep chugging on down the road, right? And you can't always slam your foot on the gas pedal and go at 140 miles an hour. You might spin out and crash. What you want to do is, you want to go at about 30, 40 miles per hour. And then every once in a while you ramp it up to over 100, but then you go right back down to that same steady pace, and you'll get further down the road. This is like tortoise and the hare. The hare took off, right? It took off and was running, and the tortoise was just chilling. They both finished the race, but the tortoise ended up winning. So this is setting you up for success, and setting you up from success for the beginning is really repainting your mind. This is why I've created the Flow University Essentials for you, is because a lot of times before you can even begin in really implementing consistent physical activity into your everyday life, you need to have the right mental makeup. And a lot of times people, when they begin to view or engage with different things, not just fitness, their understanding of it is limited. And so you don't want to necessarily just hop right in without doing some background research and really beginning to broaden your perspective and your awareness, because when you just dive right in, sometimes it can lead to you going down the wrong pathway, and it will lead to failure. Now, failure isn't a bad thing. You want to fail, because even failure will teach you a lot of lessons. But in terms of fitness, what will happen is, a lot of individuals will fail, and they won't do it for years. They'll be like, man, I tried that diet and it didn't work, and so I guess now I'm just fat. And then you'll stay like that for 5, 10, 15 years until you work up the courage to do it again. But if you had the right understanding, the right viewpoint from it, you wouldn't necessarily have done the diet. You would have slowly have implemented certain steps and certain ways of eating that would have changed your entire outer operation. And you're not really doing a diet. You just have a way of eating that you eat every single day. And so it's going back to earlier episodes, it's being subtle. It's taking small steps. It's not, sprinting all the time. And so you'll be able, and for some individuals, it's going to be agonizing. You might only lose 0.5 pounds, 1 pound. And it's not going to be super like joyful and super like exciting in the beginning, but it's like you're picking up steam, right? And so, yes, in the beginning, it's like you're climbing up a mountain, but once you reach the top of the mountain and you're able to look around and see everything as it is, and you see all the different perspectives, and you see all the different ways of operating and being, then you lean back, you're like, okay, now I get it. So now you're like, okay, now I can go down the hill. Now you go full speed, because now you understand exactly what it is you need to do. So a lot of times, and I've talked previously about the different planes of existence, most people, when they start something, they start in the physical plane of existence, right? And this is good, right? You want action, but everything is predicated and stems from the spiritual plane. So if you're beginning to engage with something, and the spiritual nature isn't in alignment, then there's going to be a rejection in the future. So, for example, if you view fitness and it's negative within yourself and it's of a low order, like you hate fitness, it sucks, whatever, then when you engage with it by just driving right in, then there's going to be immediate rejection the second it doesn't give you what you want. So in order to shift this, you need to shift your understanding. In order to shift your understanding, like, okay, I don't like it. It doesn't feel good, but I know this is good for me. And this is a form of self-love for myself. And sometimes like love also comes with discipline. Love comes with sacrifice, and love also comes with pain in certain circumstances. Yes, love is pain is a form of love if it's done correctly. And so by giving this to yourself, and you should, and let me preface, you don't want to put yourself in pain, but the struggle, the internal conflict is pain and is painful for people. And so by going through this, it'll help you to see, okay, why am I painful? What do I need to do to get out of pain? And then you're able to open up different roads in order for you to get to where you want to be, and that's being out of pain. I remember when I was preparing, and this can help you guys in a lot of areas. I remember when I was doing my first powerlifting competition, in my mind's eye, I visioned success in my powerlifting competition. I envisioned winning. And in my mind, I said, what do I need to do to win? And I went to the future, the end result, and I worked all the way back to the present. And from that point, I realized, okay, I'm not where I need to be at in order to have that outcome happen. So in my mind, what began to happen is I began to look down different roads and what I need to do in order to get to that end result. And so by doing things that works for you, you're going to be able to have the same thing happen. So you'll open up different roads for you to walk down to get to that end result. So now when you have in your mind, okay, I want to lose 10 pounds, instead of you immediately subscribing to a 30-day challenge, which it might get you to the 10 pounds or not, but it's not going to sustain the loss of the 10 pounds. Then you'll open up different viewpoints and different mind, and you'll be like, okay, how do I really lose 10 pounds and sustain it and keep it off and look sexy? So do that and you'll see long-term success. Going into key number 2, you want to value health and wellness. So the modern fitness industry is inverted. So everything that should be of the highest value is of the lowest value, and everything that is the lowest value is of the highest value. I'm going to have to blame social media for this. A lot of people in everyday life, they're getting a lot of health and wellness advice. They're getting a lot of fitness advice from online. And the bad thing about this is that there's a lot of underqualified individuals giving advice. People who haven't really dove all the way into fitness or dove all the way into medicine or health and wellness and holism and alternative health practices and some of the more natural aspects of helping people in the body and different systems in the body and some of the different internal organs and how to do things from a natural perspective in order to heal yourself. Not a lot of people have done this. A lot of people, they'll go online, they'll get a certification, and then they'll start teaching people, and they'll only have one certification, and they'll just, sometimes individuals you can learn a lot from experience, but a lot of times what you'll get online is you'll just get a lot of information. And so you don't really understand, like, is this information actually something I should be valuing or not? And even further, social media has become a social, like humans, they'll write books about this in the future, about how social media has created a digital currency among us as humans, where essentially you can grow in social status by portraying yourself in a certain manner online. The bad thing about this is that social media doesn't really exist. It's a construct. Yes, it exists in the minds of us as human beings, but in physical reality, it doesn't really exist. So when someone has a certain amount of followers or portrays a certain lifestyle online, that might be the case. But in the real world, in reality, it doesn't add up. It doesn't hold weight because it's a facade, it's a persona. And so the difficulty with this and with individuals in relating to the health and the wellness is that people will go online and they'll see people with these fantastic bodies. They'll see people with amazing looking faces and amazing looking aesthetics. And they'll be like, this is what I want. And there's nothing wrong with that. You want to look nice. You want to make sure that you are of your highest in every single one. You want excellence across the board. But when you're reviewing the outer shell of a person, this doesn't speak to what's going on internally. And so someone might display phenomenal outward display, same thing as with social media. They're displaying this one aspect of life that's high level and super nice and great to look at. But internally, what is going on? And like I said, everything goes within the spiritual world and then stems from out of there. So you go and you're like, okay, well, what is this person like? What's their personality? How they treat people? Who are they like as a human being? What's their character? What's their value structure? What's their morals? What's their ethics? How do they operate with, I mean, for morals and ethics, that can be changed, but how do they treat people? Do they regard every single human being with respect and dignity? Or do they demean? Do they judge? Do they criticize? Do they believe themselves to be better off of just the physical looking of their body? Do they actually try to help other humans, or are they selfish? Are they prideful? Do they want to see humanity grow and progress, or are they just focused on seeing themselves be better than other people? So it's going deeper with that. And that's on social media. But in terms of the body, you want to make sure that like you never want to abuse or neglect anyone, right? So don't do the same thing with yourself. And self, that means so many things. You can't define self through the simplicity of the English language. It's way more than that. And even the symbolism of self is deeper than that. And so there's aspects of self within yourself. And the aspects of self within yourself can't be neglected. And so your internal organs, right? Your heart, your lungs, your stomach, your intestines. So when you value health and wellness, yes, you want to look good, but what you really value is self. And you value self-love, because self-love doesn't just care about the outer shell of the body. Self-love cares about the heart. Self-love cares about mind. Self-love cares about your throat and the different chakra points in the body. The self-love cares about what are you giving your body. Self-love cares about what is the state of your heart. Self-love cares about how is the river of life, blood flowing throughout your body. Self-love cares about how's my nervous system functioning? What is it being fueled on? Is it being fueled on hate, wrath, bitterness, resentment? Or is it being fueled on love, joy, hope, peace, kindness? And individuals will be like, oh, that doesn't mean anything. Yes, it does. Guys, we're humans. We are made to connect with other people. And in that connectivity, we're able to share experiences. We're able to share love. We're able to share joy. We're able to share hope, peace. But when there's a cutting off and there's a neglection, then will lead to a disconnection. And when you disconnect with self, then you are willing to disconnect with others. And when you disconnect with others, then you're willing to disconnect with things that will fuel you and sustain you. And so this is how you disconnect from source. And so this is a form of self-hatred. And so hate, and I've dove deep into this, I actually began to study this, hate. And so hate comes when you believe that there is a discrepancy, when you believe that there is a distinction, that there is a separation, that there is an opposite. And so some individuals, when they view their body as separate from them. They view their internal as separate from them. They view even the outer sphere as separate from them. And when you view the world in this manner, it's easier to hate that thing because you do not believe this thing is within the best interest of you. And so it's easier for you to cast it aside and get rid of it because you believe this thing is hindering you and you don't believe that it can be of aid and of use to you. And so a lot of times, this is how individuals even view their bodies. A lot of individuals, they have a lot of self-hate for their bodies. And so they'll look at the mirror and they don't like the representation because they don't like what they're seeing. They immediately reject it. And because they reject it, they're unwilling to even engage with it. And because they're unwilling to even engage with it, there is nothing that they can do to even improve it. And so then that point of hate sits within them. And then people don't like hating just themselves. They want other people to feel like them. And so they project this outward. And it's either easier for them to hate things, hate people, hate aspects, even and hate God. And so when you don't connect and you don't give yourself what it needs, then that deep cesspool of bitterness, it just grows and grows and grows and grows. And it becomes not a internal fire that leads to passion and motivation and drive, but it creates a cold kind of fire that leads to a internal hardening. And it leads to a darkness where essentially you sit chained and tied to a perspective and a belief. And so that is all hate is. And so to transcend this, all you need is more understanding. And so begin to invert how you engage with health and wellness. And then perhaps you can see those improvements. Guys, you're not set in stone. When you came out of your mother's womb, you developed into an adult. And so you can still develop more and more and more and more. Like, you don't just develop physically, you develop mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. But what the modern world has depicted to you guys is that at a certain point you stop. You never stop. You always can progress. Some of the more prominent historical figures from the past, they didn't go to formal educational schools. They didn't have high-level teachers, or they didn't have public education at all. They taught themselves. And so what does it mean to teach yourself? It just means that you're just working on yourself. It's just self-improvement. And so you can essentially just improve yourself infinitely. And so it doesn't matter where you start, it matters where you finish. And so you might have the beginning circumstance be in such a place where you're like, man, I was really behind, but guys, you can catch up. And there's so many tools for you, not even to catch up, but even extend past, because no one's doing this. No, there's so few people who are willing to put in the work. And it's not because individuals don't have time, the tools, or the resources. They just don't have the willingness. And so what you must do is you must have the willingness to engage. And if you have the willingness to engage, then you will see progress. Now, I can't put a timeline, right? And it's not going to be fast and it's not going to be easy, but you will see progress. And when you have that hindsight and you look back and you see the line of development, then you'll be like, oh, thank God I did this. Thank God I stepped forward. Thank God I began to just take one step at a time. You might not even have to, you don't have to go out and save the world. Just start by tying your shoelaces. Start by making your bed. Start by drinking 1 glass of water a day. Start by doing 1 push-up. Then you can do 2 push-ups. Then you go on infinitely. And now you pick up steam. Now you build momentum. Guys, I'll share a very intimate moment with myself. I am not the most social person in the world. I would consider myself an introvert. But what I've been doing, and I believe that the introversion is just a self-deluding thing that we humans place on ourselves. I think everyone's an extrovert at heart, especially if you get around friends. You'll see people who are introverts. They'll get around extroverts and they'll immediately come out of their shell. So it's not about introversion, it's about comfort. And so a lot of humans, when they go out and they're around a lot of humans, they don't feel comfortable. And so if you go and you watch like TED Talks, or you watch very profound speakers, you'll see that they can be comfortable, but they might be uncomfortable in that they still might not like being in that environment, but they're comfortable in the sense that they're okay with other humans listening to their thoughts, opinions, and ideals. And so you need to become comfortable being uncomfortable. And then within that, you can still maintain your character and being yourself, and you can come out of your shell more and more. So with myself, I went from being an introvert and I didn't go out much. I would just read books all day and I would study. But now I go out every single day. Now I'm comfortable reading and doing work. I'm writing a book right now. I'll do it at a coffee shop, or I'll just walk on the street. I'll listen to music and I'll do other things, but I'm not like looking at my phone, not looking down. I'm looking out, up and out, because I want to meet people and experience things. And so this can be the same thing with your health and your wellness, right? Like you don't have to be within, right? And you just, do things this way and you don't want to engage with anything else. No, you can do what works for you, but also do and value certain things that's actually going to lead to long-term success and something that you can sustain. So when you do this, now you're giving yourself that self-love. So, and it'll make it easier for you to engage with the more important aspects of fitness. Going into key number 3, you want to engage with all aspects of fitness. So Andrew Huberman, he put out a post on Instagram showcasing the 9 pillars of, I think it was health and wellness or his fitness. You can see it on his page. Go check his page out right now as I'm saying this. But I created my model of fitness where you have biohacking, training, nutrition, recovery, and community. But you want to engage with every single aspect, because what we're working towards is we're working towards the not recreation, but the reconnectivity to people engaging with everyday society. And so what's going on is that because of technology and I would say COVID-19 played a big role in this, people aren't willing to go out and connect and experience others. And the problem with this is that in my model, I talked about community, and that community piece is extremely important. It is so important that it's so important that it's even on a subconscious level. Guys, I want you just to sit down and sit back for a second and think about your loved ones. Think about some of your most favorite people in the world that you love to hang out with. And just think about, how do you feel when you're about to see them? Do you feel, oh my God, I'm about to go see my friends? Or you feel like, man, I gotta go see these people. If you go, whoa, I'm about to see my friends, what's happening to you? What's happening to your physiology? Guys, your physiology, boom, you open up, you expand. You're willing to go out there and allow in. There's a wave and a elevation of energy. But let's say you're inside, like, yeah, I'm gonna go inside and hang out. Just chill. What happens to your physiology? What happens to your energy? It comes reclusive. It comes drawn in. It becomes deadly. So, guys, that community is very important, because you want to be with people, you want to connect with people, but not just that. When you begin to engage with every aspect of fitness, now you're also are working on some of your weaknesses. Guys, you not only want to focus on your strength, you want to focus on your weaknesses, because it is within your weaknesses that you'll really see the most development. I'll meet with clients, I'll meet with individuals, and I'll have conversations with people. And they're like, man, I can work out. That's easy. I got a gym in my garage. I got weights all over the place. I walk past the gym. I can hop in there for a couple minutes. That's physical activity is nothing. I walk to work. I do everything I gotta do. But man, when it comes to eating, man, I got a McDonald's right there, and I get off of work and I can't say no to it. Or like I'm so busy with work, I can't really do much in terms of my nutrition. I just eat whatever I have on hand. And so when you begin to engage with every single aspect of fitness, you want to create not necessarily a game plan, but you want to do what works for you. So let's say you are the individual and you're at work and you're super busy. and you have to engage with every aspect of fitness in order to see the maximal results in terms of your health and your wellness, then okay, cool. I understand you're busy, but this is an important key for you. So I would set a timer. Elon Musk sets and times his day within 5-minute intervals. I'm not telling you to go to that extreme, but let's say at the top of every hour, you have not even an alarm, but like a little notification on your phone, drink water. Okay, at the top of the hour, just even if it's just a sip of water, boom. And then you do that for 10 hours. Now and let's say you have a big water bottle. Now you can drink a big water bottle. Let's say you drink 1 ounce, or you need more than 1 ounce. Let's say you drink like 10 ounces every hour on the hour. Now by the end of 10 hours, you've just drunk 100 ounces. Now you probably need a little more than that, but at the very least, you got in some water, you got in some fluid. And so you can get in other fluid in other ways, like oatmeal, or you get soup and stuff like that. But let's say you have coffee or something. But like in the bare minimum, like water requirement, at the very least, you're making sure you're hitting that marker. And so, or let's say, I do this. So I'll wake up in the morning and I have my morning routine. And my morning routine's fast. I'll wake up, make my bed, I'll clean. I'll then do my vitamins, do all my stuff, do my, hop in the shower, do my, get myself together. And then immediately after that, if I have work, I immediately get straight to work. Or if it's like I'm not working on like my work for my job, then I'm immediately working on this. I'm working on the podcast, the YouTube channel podcast, or I'm working on my book, or I'm working on something else. But throughout that, because I'm so busy, or I'm out and I'm walking around, I'm meeting people, I'm at a coffee shop. But if I'm not doing that, I'll have a water literally sitting right by my desk. So there's a water right now, right by my desk. And so when I'm working, I might get so deep into my deep work, and I might become so focused that I'll literally I've had moments where like 30, 40, 50 minutes have gone by and I didn't even notice it. But then I'll lean back for a second. I'll look at, oh, my water, boom, let me go ahead and take a sip. So for you, it might be, man, maybe you need to set a water by your bedside table. So when you wake up in the morning, you just look over, oh, it's my water. Let me go ahead and drink this drink real quick. Or let's say, in an earlier episode, I said I had water in the car. And so you see the water in the car, so now you're more likely to drink it. But let's say, for example, that another problem you have is necessarily like eating healthy food. So what works for you? But some individuals, you guys have kids, you have other people to live with, so you might not be able to do this. I would say take every single unhealthy food out of the house until you can slowly implement unhealthy food, because you've gained the ability to control. A lot of times with what happens in the beginning of people's fitness journeys is that they haven't gained the mental fortitude, patience, and the will to control the more primal reptilian aspects of themselves to essentially stop themselves from doing things. And I'll see this within everyday life. Now that I go back and I'm more in public, and the public sphere, and I'm seeing people's behaviors within everyday life, I'll see individuals that they will literally not be able to say no. They'll literally not be able to stop themselves. Everything is yes. And so I don't want to see anyone live in a state of uncontrolled or almost habitual overeating, and beginning to engage with every aspect of fitness while keeping the other keys intact. This will just help you to increase that awareness. And so I would obviously, anytime there is a negative behavior, it is usually because there is a giving into a energy that is on the flip side of the positive energy. So gluttony, right? Gluttony is in the gut, because your gut it wants to be full, but it wants to be overfull. And so I would say that you guys need to go in the opposite direction, and you need to teach yourself patience. And so patience requires sacrifice. but this takes time. And I would start this in small increments. I would go, okay, 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour, five, but you need that in order to help yourself in building will. I did intermittent fasting it wasn't in the very beginning of my fitness journey, but at a certain point I did do intermittent fasting, and it helped me to control my eating habits and just putting off when I eat. And within modern society, we do have an over availability of food that's easily accessible. And so we are thrusted into the world and we're told to eat 3 meals a day with like a bunch of snacks in between. And if you are in certain sports or in a certain way of living, this is good for you. But in other aspects, it could be detrimental because you could overeat in every time you engage in eating. And so when you're not mindful of this, or you do not have the knowledge of this, it's easy to continually overconsume. And so the helpful solution would be to put off eating and condense your eating periods. So when we were out, or in the past, when we were more primitive, we didn't eat that much. We didn't have the necessary food really available in order to eat. We would have to go out and get our food in either hunting or gathering. And so in modern society, our hunting and gathering is, let me go ahead and push some buttons on this device, or let me walk to the grocery store or drive to the grocery store. So, or let me just go look in the fridge. So there doesn't have to be that much effort, and there's not that much sacrifice, and there's not that much time in between us having to eat. And so I would condense meals and put it out in the beginning just to get you to almost what you're doing is essentially, when you engage with every aspect of fitness, you're essentially training yourself. And so that's really what you want to get to. You want to get to such a point where you're essentially training yourself, because if you never gain the ability to train yourself, you'll always be at the mercy of others, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because you should be taking advice and mentorship and always looking to others to give you knowledge, insight, and wisdom. But if you never grow in the process, if in 6 months, if you've been working with someone, or if you've been if you have been engaging with something and you haven't seen any growth, development, or improvement, then there's a problem. That means you haven't been getting what you need, or you haven't been pushed, or you haven't really seen any changes. And so engage with every aspect of fitness, because there are some weaknesses that you have that you need to adhere to that you guys have heard it before. The weakest link is usually what's going to lead to a team's downfall. So if you focus on building up the weakest link, then you won't have to think about the strongest link, because you know the strongest link's always going to be there. So build up the weakest links, and then from there, you'll see more gradual improvement. A lot of times, failure doesn't come because your strengths weren't good enough. It was that the lack of knowledge or ability, or the lack of skills, led to new situations or circumstances that you haven't previously been in beforehand, that when you were introduced to, now you were unaware of how to deal with it. I'll be very intimate again. When I was from 18 to about 21, I was incredible with women. But from a period from about 21 to about 24, 25, I was terrible with women. That was because as people grow and develop, things change. So as a guy, if you're dating 20-year-olds, it's way different than dating 25 and 30-year-olds. So you can't approach an 18, 19-year-old the same way you're going to approach a 25, 30-year-old. You got to come at them a little different. And so Now some of your weaknesses are going to be more on display because you haven't worked on those things. And so if you work on those things, now when you go to the higher levels, now you're like, oh, okay, cool. Now I can handle this. Because now there has been improvement and there has been growth and development. But you have to be willing to look in the mirror and you have to be willing to look at even some of the more negative aspects of yourself and say, okay, cool. What's the problem here? And guys, I don't want you guys to view like, it's not, you are perfect the way you are. You are unique. You have a uniqueness. You have a special thing within yourself. And there's nothing or anyone who can take this away from you. But that doesn't mean that you are like perfection. So when you are working and improving yourself, yes, you're getting better, but perfection doesn't exist for us as humans. If perfection existed for us as humans, we would be God, and no one's God. So, or if you are, then please come talk to me, or we should go see a psychologist. But essentially, when you're working on improving yourself, sometimes your weaknesses might become strengths and your strengths might become weaknesses because you have been focusing on it. So it's like you're rolling a ball up a hill, right? Endlessly and endlessly. I forget the name of the story. It's from Greek mythology. I can't pinpoint it, but this man was cursed to roll a rock up a hill and then it would roll down and then you would have to keep rolling it back up the hill. And that's essentially, and that was painted in a negative light, but in this sense, I'm painting it in a positive light. I'm positive. Because we as humans, every time you roll the rock up the hill, yes, it might roll back down the hill, but each time it gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. There's another story where a young man, he would carry a goat or it was a pig, and he would carry it to this pasture, and it was like up a mountain, up a hill. And every time he did it, he got stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger over time. So this is what engaging with every aspect of fitness will do, is that you're gradually getting better and 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 better. And you're gradually, like when I first started fitness, I hated squatting. Now, guys, I'm so good at squatting, I can literally sit in the squat forever. And I literally, like, my best feature on my body is my legs. I went from hating squatting, not being able to squat, to depth. But now I'm squatting like people who squat in the East, who literally have to squat to eat, to use the restroom, in everyday life. So but now the negative effect is that I'm not that strong on my upper body anymore. So there's sacrifice, but also now you're willing to, so it just keeps going. It keeps going. So this can be good because let's say that I'm saying we're sticking with fitness, engage with every single aspect of fitness, but also like this can help you in other areas. So engaging with all other areas. So let's say, so when I first started this, I was terrible at showcasing my personality while on the camera. This was a weakness of mine. And I'm still improving my speaking. I'm not like the greatest speaker in the world. I would say I'm average, but over time I've improved the skill. But because I've improved the skill, one of the negative effects of me improving the skill, one of the things I'm not so much more as I was before is I'm not as reserved. So now I'm more willing to speak my opinion, which in certain situations is bad, but in other situations is very good. So it's just you becoming more and more, and you being willing to test yourself, and you being willing to work on yourself and improve yourself. So let's say, and this is for most guys hate stretching. They hate yoga. They hate flexibility, mobility, and stability work because it's boring. Me and guys, we want to be tough. We want to be, strong, lifting iron, and lifting heavy weight. But sometimes this is bad because you can go too far. And so we as guys, we tend to go too far, and we go to the extremes, and we go over the edge. And what does this look like for guys? This leads to us having super big muscles, but not being able to scratch our back. This leads to us being able to lift a whole bunch of weight, but we can't pick this toy off the ground or we might pop a vertebrae. So it's allowing yourself to not place yourself within a box. And when you place the body within the box, what will happen is that the body will always fight to leave the box. Guys, the older you get, the heart that like you got, look at, I'm so sorry, but like, look at old people. That will tell you everything you need to know. How do they move? How do their bodies operate? How do their bodies function? How do they live their everyday life? How do they engage with movement? They're restricted. They're condensed. They're conservative. And so if you train the body within this manner by sticking it within a tight mechanism, a tight viewpoint, a tight box, then that is what will happen to it. And so you won't be able to express certain things. You won't be able to run anymore. You won't be able to jump. You won't be able to do certain movements in order to pick up things or get to certain places to hang out with certain people. You'll have to stay within a box. So if you don't want to live within a box or live within a certain movement pattern or a certain aspect, then you have to either expand the box or you have to break out of the box. And so I would want every single person to listen to Ido Portal. He's a movement expert and he's been on a ton of podcasts. Google him. He's an expert in movement and not just the deep, like cellular structure, like going all the way to cellular structure, but even outer, like more from there. Like he probably would start from first principles and get to like second order thinking all the way to the most complex structure of movement, even beyond that. Because once you reach like the true higher levels within an understanding of a certain thing, you then break out of the structure. And once you break out of the structure, then essentially it becomes its own thing. And so that's kind of what I do with fitness. I started fitness from first principles, and then we just go until we break out of the societal mold of what it is. And then we just keep going, because that's what innovation is. Innovation is just working on a mechanism and a tool and making it better and better and better and better and better. But you can never get to that if you just stay within the box of what you believe this thing to be. So it's kind of like how humans used to view other humans, right? So like in the past, humans used to view humans as only being people within their tribe. And then it went from, okay, now we only view humans to people that look like us. Okay, now we only view humans as others that look and think like us. Okay, now humans they have to be in our community, look, think like us, and they have to believe the same things we believe. Well, now it's people asking like a strange loop, what is a human? So it just keeps going and going and going and going. So you never want to really like stop at a thing. You always want to push it forward. And for yourself, you can always push forward. You can keep going. Anytime you stop is when you're like, psh, and you don't want that. You don't want that to happen. So engage with all aspects of fitness and you'll see unimaginable growth and progress. Going into key number 4, support others on their journey. Guys, the human race has only been able to reach this level of advancement is because we have helped others. And so the only way the species can continue to improve is that we have not only sacrificed, but we have been unselfish. So guys, in the past, humans used to leave the tribe, the community. They used to go out into the unknown, and then they would discover things And now things that were unknown are known, and they would bring that new knowing, that knowledge, back to the community, back to the tribe. They would share it amongst the others, and they would give them understanding. And then within this understanding, now others could now leave and have that knowledge with them and that insight and that depth. So now they can have experience and gain more either resources or things that the village needed to improve itself, protect itself, or just for entertainment's sake. And so it is very important that we keep this mindset. And so there's too many people within the fitness industry that they go within it and they'll see this development, they'll see this improvement. And what will immediately happen is that their pride, their arrogance, and the egotistical aspect of themselves go through the roof, that they believe that they are better and superior and elite to others. And even though they have reached this status, instead of them turning around and saying, man, I went on this incredible journey. And I want to preface this too as well. No person has ever done anything by themselves. You might have had the willingness to do something by yourself. You might have had the ability to step within something on your own 2 feet, and it is your choice as you are sovereign and you are able to do so. But we are all sitting on the shoulders of giants. The only reason why society exists like this is because hundreds of millions of people died, and hundreds of millions of people suffered, and hundreds of millions of people went through hell, literally. People getting stabbed, raped, cast into slavery, shot at, ropes tied around their necks, people in prison, dungeons. So any success you see has to be paid forward, not just from the ancestors, but other people you see within everyday society. That road you drive on every day. Did you pave that road? Or did it just magically pop out of thin air? No. Someone woke up, went, and paved that road. Someone created that car, that coffee cup. Yeah, the Batista poured the coffee. Where'd the cup come from? So it's understanding that you have a responsibility to, at the very least, reach your hand out. That doesn't mean you have to sit there and give handouts to people. It doesn't mean you got to go and help the poor and the homeless. No, some people deserved what they got because they were either unwilling or they rejected or they did some real stupid stuff, even though people were trying to help them. So in that, yes, some people deserve to be in that situation. But in other aspects, at the very least, place your hand out. Because if someone grabs that hand, they might be really needing of that. And you see it all the time in gyms, especially gym culture. I think it is the most disgraceful aspect of the modern fitness industry. It is literally ass backwards, and it's reverted because you've been working on and improving yourself, and you were one way, but now you're another way. But you're now demeaning, judging, and criticizing someone who hasn't reached that level, even though at one point you were at that level. Do you see the foolishness in this? So essentially, you're judging yourself from a future state so that if you were yourself, you would be the one criticizing yourself and judging yourself, even though yourself is working on yourself. Guys, do you see the distinction? So when you are willing to support others on their journey, what you're doing is you're telling them that, hey, I've been here before. You have empathy. And then you're telling them you can reach this level. Guys, when I started my journey, I had others around me that supported me. But once I reached a certain point, I now saw people who used to be me. And I was like, dang, I remember being like that. I remember looking in the mirror and being like, you're a piece of shit. I remember going to the gym and I would hate running. I would hate hopping on the bike. I would hate lifting weights. I remember hate drinking water. Guys, I used to fill up a gallon container of Hi-C and I would chug that. I hated water. I used to love McDonald's. I used to, even after I started my fitness journey, I would work out for like an hour and then I would drive to McDonald's. I would get 3 large fries, 2 triple cheeseburgers, 2 buffalo sauces, because that's the only amount of sauce they give you, 1 tall thing of Hi-C, and I would go ham. But I see people, they believe that, oh, I'm this, I'm elite. And then they demean and judge these people. No, you're not elite. You have no character. Because someone who is truly that competent, someone who is truly that able, they would actually use their abilities to help people. It shows you who you are in this grand story, in this grand narrative. So support people on their journey, and then those people will then support you. Going into key number 5, always seek growth and improvement. This is the final principle. So principle number 1, you want to do what works for you. Always, no matter what the protocol or guideline is, do what works for you. Second principle, value health and wellness. Don't just value what modern society values or what the modern fitness industry values. Always value health and wellness, and you'll make sure you stay on the right track. Principle number 3, engage with every aspect of fitness just so that you are making sure that you have all your checks and balances in place and that you're not just working on your strengths, but you're working on your weaknesses and other things that might be hindering you. Key number 4, support others on their journey, as it is your responsibility to uplift others. Because if you are the one who is casting judgment, chastisement, and criticism, then you could be the one who is putting the final nail in someone's coffin. We all know about suicide, and I'm not going to be the one who sits here and says it's never anyone's fault. We all add fuel to the fire. Going into principle number 5, always seek growth and development. You should never reach a point of perfection. That is the height of egotism. And if you reach a egotism where you believe that you are perfect, then congratulations, you have played yourself, because someone will humble you. It will be God. It might be someone who's better than you, or it might just be the everyday swing of life that does it. I remember a humbling process for me was when I started my own business about 1.5 years ago. And I thought, like, I was quite honest. I was going out on my own as a personal trainer. And I was like, man, I've worked all these jobs. I got so much experience in the fitness industry. I got all these certifications. This is about to be a cakewalk. Boom, slap in the face. That joint didn't work. So but even though that happened to me, I'm still growing and improving, and I have grown and improved throughout the process. So for you and yourself, it's okay, like, I've reached this new peak, but what's the next peak, right? So it's always going up and up and up and up. It's always like, all right, now I can look at the camera and say these words, but now let me begin to formulate thoughts and arguments and debates and structure and, multiple viewpoints while I'm talking on the camera. Let me begin to create multiple videos, and let me create a process. In conclusion, keep these 5 keys in the front part of your consciousness and allow it to bubble up to the surface anytime you interact with a new mechanism or tool. I hope you guys have enjoyed this week's episode of the Flow University YouTube channel. You all stay blessed.